The glittering lights of Hollywood have always had a unique way of illuminating the highest peaks of human achievement while simultaneously casting the longest and darkest shadows over the private lives of those who walk its red carpets. It is a world where public adoration and personal sacrifice are constantly locked in a delicate dance, a place where a single moment of triumph can easily become inextricably entangled with the quiet whispers of unresolved heartbreak. For decades, the global public has watched the spectacular trajectory of one of the most famous and influential families of the modern era, a modern dynasty that has seamlessly crossed the boundaries between international sports stardom, high fashion, and ultimate celebrity status. From the outside, their journey has often appeared to be a flawless tapestry of success, luxury, and unbreakable solidarity, a testament to what can be achieved when talent matches an unrelenting drive for perfection. Every public appearance, every carefully curated photograph, and every monumental milestone has traditionally been met with a sense of awe from millions of followers around the globe, who view this family as the absolute blueprint for contemporary success and unity. Yet, beneath this meticulously polished and beautifully presented exterior, a very different kind of reality has been quietly unfolding, proving that even the most glittering armor can develop deep, agonizing fractures when subjected to the intense pressures of constant public scrutiny and internal emotional discord. Before we dive deeper into the remarkable complexities of this unfolding situation and explore the deep-seated tensions that are currently threatening to reshape the legacy of this iconic family forever, please take a brief moment to support our channel by subscribing, hitting the notification bell, and joining our growing community so you never miss an in-depth update on the stories that shape our cultural landscape. The essence of modern celebrity culture lies in its ability to create a compelling illusion of accessibility, making audiences feel as though they are intimate participants in the lives of the rich and famous, while the true reality remains carefully guarded behind closed doors and ironclad public relations strategies. This fascinating dichotomy was put on full and dramatic display during a recent landmark event in Los Angeles, an occasion that should have been a definitive, unblemished celebration of a lifetime of extraordinary achievement and global influence. The atmosphere was electric as fans, photographers, and media outlets from every corner of the world gathered to witness a legendary sports figure receive one of the entertainment industry's most coveted and enduring honors. It was a moment meant to solidify a legacy, a historic milestone that drew the immediate family together under the bright California sun, dressed in impeccable style and presenting a united front to the flashing cameras. To the casual observer, the scene was a perfect replication of the family dynamic that has captivated the public for over a quarter of a century, characterized by mutual support, pride, and an undeniable aura of collective success. The remaining children stood proudly alongside their glamorous parents, smiles firmly in place as they absorbed the cheers of the crowd and participated in the grand theatricality of Hollywood recognition, creating an image of absolute familial bliss that looked ready to grace the front pages of every major publication. However, those who have followed the family's trajectory with a more discerning eye could not help but notice a profound and glaring emptiness at the heart of this supposed reunion, a silence that spoke far louder than the roaring applause of the gathered spectators. The complete absence of the eldest son from this monumental family gathering was not merely a matter of a scheduling conflict or a simple logistical oversight, but rather a vivid and painful manifestation of a deep emotional chasm that has been widening for a significant period of time. This missing piece of the family puzzle cast a palpable, unspoken tension over the entire proceedings, serving as a stark reminder that no amount of professional success or public adulation can truly compensate for the painful realities of a domestic estrangement played out on the global stage. The contrast between the joy of the achievement and the heavy reality of this ongoing separation hung in the air, transforming what should have been a day of pure, unadulterated triumph into a complex exercise in emotional navigation and public relations defense. As the ceremony progressed and the accolades were delivered, the underlying narrative began to shift from the celebration of past victories to the quiet, simmering speculation regarding the current state of their internal relationships, proving once again that the personal lives of the ultra-famous are often far more dramatic than any scripted media presentation. This underlying tension finally breached the carefully maintained surface during a subsequent media interaction, a moment where the rigid boundaries between public celebration and private pain were directly and uncomfortably challenged by an insightful interviewer. In an environment where every question is typically vetted and every answer is carefully calibrated to maintain a specific narrative, the sudden introduction of a direct query regarding the emotional toll of the ongoing fam strife acted as a sudden and jarring reality check. The inquiry did not tiptoe around the edges of the issue, but instead addressed the elephant in the room directly, forcing a confrontation between the manufactured perfection of the celebrity image and the messy, painful realities of human relationships. The response to this direct challenge was swift, decisive, and revealing in its absolute finality, representing a rare moment where the curtain was momentarily pulled back, not to reveal secrets, but to firmly bar the public from entering any further into the private sanctuary of the family. By explicitly drawing a line in the sand and refusing to engage with the topic, the iconic patriarch made it abundantly clear that there are certain boundaries that even the most persistent media inquiries cannot cross. Choosing to protect what remains of their private sphere rather than offering fuel to the ever-burning fire of public speculation. This firm refusal to discuss the matter did not silence the questions, but instead amplified the collective curiosity of the public, shifting the focus from the historic achievement on the Walk of Fame to the profound, unspoken pain that obviously resides within the family dynamic. It demonstrated a sophisticated understanding of media mechanics, recognizing that any comment, no matter how brief or diplomatic, would be dissected, analyzed, and weaponized in the ongoing public narrative surrounding their internal conflicts. The silence, therefore, became a powerful statement in its own right, a defensive shield deployed to protect the family's core image while signaling an absolute unwillingness to litigate deeply personal grievances in the court of public opinion. Yet, as the world watched this masterclass in public relations damage control, the events unfolding away from the red carpet were simultaneously painting a much more complicated and urgent picture of a family desperately trying to navigate the fractured pieces of their relationship. The narrative was no longer confined to statements and refusals, but was actively playing out in the physical world, through sudden movements, unreceived visits, and the quiet, watchful eyes of the paparazzi who document every step of this high-stakes family drama. This hidden layer of reality suggests that behind the stoic denials and the polished smiles, there is an ongoing, active struggle to find resolution, a sequence of events that continues to evolve rapidly behind the scenes. Far from the bright lights and the adoring crowds of Hollywood, promising to reveal even deeper complexities as the story continues to unfold. The real drama of this unfolding saga quickly shifted away from the pristine, star-studded sidewalks of the Hollywood Walk of Fame and moved directly into the quiet, affluent residential neighborhoods of Los Angeles, where the stakes of this familial Cold War became painfully visible. In the immediate aftermath of the grand public ceremony, while the echoes of applause were still reverberating through the media world, a sequence of events took place that perfectly illustrated the profound disconnection existing between the different factions of this iconic dynasty. The youngest daughter of the household, a 14-year-old girl caught in the complex crossfire of adult grievances and media narratives, became the central figure in a sudden, unscripted attempt at connection that would soon capture the attention of investigative journalists and onlookers worldwide. Photographers who had been quietly tracking the family's movements captured striking images of the young teenager arriving unexpectedly at her eldest brother's Los Angeles residence. An architectural sanctuary that should have represented a place of warm welcome, shared childhood memories, and open doors. This was not a casual, pre-arranged family visit, but rather a sudden, poignant moment that carried the heavy weight of a family desperately trying to bridge a widening chasm, perhaps hoping that the innocence of a younger sibling could accomplish what adult diplomacy had completely failed to achieve. The images obtained exclusively by investigative media outlets told a story of immediate frustration and unresolved tension, showing the young girl standing outside the residence, waiting for a sign of recognition that never arrived, before being forced to leave the premises just moments later without ever being received or granted entry into the home. It was a stark, visual representation of a closed door, a physical manifestation of the emotional alienation that has come to define the relationship between the eldest son and the rest of his immediate family. The speed with which the encounter ended, combined with the absolute lack of interaction, immediately triggered a wave of intense speculation regarding whether this rejection was a deliberate, calculated snub or merely a highly unfortunate consequence of poor timing and non-existent communication channels within a fractured household. The narrative grew exponentially more complex when insider sources quickly stepped forward to clarify the exact circumstances surrounding this failed residential encounter, revealing that the eldest son and his wife were not even present in the city at the time, having quietly departed for New York. This revelation did not soothe the rising tensions, but instead added an entirely new layer of suspicion and hostility to an already volatile situation, prompting an immediate and incredibly sharp response from the eldest son's official representatives. The public statement issued by his camp did not mince words, launching a direct and devastating accusation against the parents by suggesting that the entire incident had been a highly calculated, meticulously planned public relations stunt designed specifically to manipulate public opinion and paint the parents as grieving, rejected figures. By pointing out that photographers were perfectly positioned to capture the exact moment a hand-delivered letter was brought to the doorstep, the representative bluntly asserted that this was not a genuine, heartfelt attempt at family reconciliation, but rather a carefully choreographed piece of media theater designed entirely for the cameras. This aggressive counteroffensive effectively stripped away any remaining illusions of goodwill, exposing a deep-seated belief within the son's camp that every single action taken by his famous parents is motivated by a desire to control the media narrative and preserve their immaculate public image at all costs. The parents' representatives chose to meet these serious accusations with absolute total silence, refusing multiple direct requests from major news outlets to comment on the doorstep incident or the scathing allegations of media manipulation. A tactical decision that highlights the complete breakdown of direct communication between the two warring sides of the family. This wall of silence from the patriarchal core of the family reflects a classic public relations strategy aimed at starving the controversy of additional oxygen. Yet it simultaneously allows the explosive accusations made by their own flesh and blood to hang heavily in the air unanswered. To truly understand how a once inseparable family unit devolved into such a bitter, public, and seemingly irreconcilable conflict, one must look back to the explosive events of earlier this year, when the eldest son shattered decades of family protocol by launching a massive, unvarnished public attack against his own parents on social media, in a lengthy, emotionally charged statement that sent shockwaves through the global entertainment industry. The 27-year-old launched a series of bombshell accusations that directly targeted the very foundation of his parents' multi-million-dollar lifestyle and public persona. He openly accused his mother and father of using their immense wealth, power, and extensive media connections to endlessly control narratives in the press, creating a completely false facade of family harmony while systematically destroying the privacy and happiness of those who dared to step outside their rigid expectations. In that historic social media post, the young man explicitly stated his complete and total refusal to seek any form of reconciliation with his parents, declaring that he was taking this drastic step in order to finally reveal the absolute truth about the endless stream of lies that had been printed about his life and his marriage. He alleged that his parents and their highly sophisticated public relations team had ruthlessly and continuously leaked damaging, distorted stories to the press regarding his relationship with his wife. An ongoing campaign of character assassination that he felt left him with absolutely no choice but to completely cut ties with his family. The wording of his statement was remarkably severe, characterizing his parents' frequent public displays of affection, coordinated family vacations, and glowing social media posts as completely performative, hollow, and entirely inauthentic gestures designed solely to deceive the global public. He claimed to have witnessed firsthand, with his own eyes, the disturbing lengths to which his parents would go to plant fabricated stories in major publications, sacrificing the emotional well-being of innocent peoples simply to protect their own commercial brand and societal status. The most deeply personal and highly shocking portion of his public grievance involved a direct, devastating critique of his world-famous mother's behavior during his lavish 2022 wedding ceremony, an event that was supposed to be the happiest day of his adult life, but was instead transformed into a source of enduring trauma. He claimed that his mother had completely hijacked a sacred, deeply personal moment by taking over his first dance with his new bride, disrupting the planned schedule and behaving in an incredibly inappropriate, overbearing manner that left him feeling profoundly uncomfortable, deeply humiliated, and utterly powerless in front of hundreds of distinguished international guests. According to his detailed account of the family dynamic, this highly publicized wedding incident was not an isolated misunderstanding, but rather the culmination of an ongoing systemic effort by his parents to actively undermine, control, and ultimately ruin his relationship with his wife from the very moment their engagement was first announced to the world. In an effort to permanently free himself from this perceived cycle of manipulation, image obsession, and emotional control, the eldest son took the extraordinary step of legally and socially shutting his parents out of his life completely, issuing a formal directive that all future communication from them must be routed exclusively through his legal representatives. He concluded his historic declaration by emphasizing that he and his wife absolutely refused to live a life dictated by public relations strategies, media metrics, or parental control, asserting that their only desire moving forward is to secure an environment of absolute peace, genuine privacy, and independent happiness for themselves and their future children. This total severing of direct communication lines left the rest of the family in a state of profound shock and deep emotional distress, caught between a fierce public relations battle and the genuine, painful reality of losing a son and a brother who had once been the absolute center of their universe. Close family insiders have repeatedly emphasized that despite the public anger and the hostile legal barriers erected by the eldest son, the remaining members of the household, especially the younger siblings, continue to miss him desperately, struggling to reconcile the loving brother they grew up with the estranged figure now waging a public war against their parents' legacy. The profound tragedy of this deep-seated familial division lies not only in the highly publicized accusations that have been thrown back and forth across the media landscape, but also in the rich, complex history of a family that was once celebrated as the absolute pinnacle of domestic unity and mutual support. To truly grasp the gravity of the current estrangement, Shoes must look closely at the remarkable journey of the patriarchal and matriarchal figures who built this global empire from the ground up, establishing a standard of family solidarity that makes the current fracture seem all the more devastating. Decades ago, long before the bright lights of Hollywood or the global fashion runways became their everyday reality, the young couple embarked on a highly scrutinized relationship that captivated the world, navigating the intense pressures of early fame by leaning heavily on one another and forging an ironclad bond based on shared ambition and unconditional loyalty. As their family grew, they consistently communicated to the global public that their children were their ultimate priority, a non-negotiable core value that remained entirely unshakable even as they traveled the globe, built massive business ventures, and faced the relentless intrusion of the international paparazzi. The eldest son, born at the very dawn of their meteoric rise to global superstardom, was historically treated as the crown jewel of this burgeoning dynasty. A beloved figure who was constantly seen by his father's side at major sporting events and prominently featured in his mother's early creative endeavors. He grew up under the watchful, adoring eyes of millions of fans who watched him transition from a shy, wide-eyed toddler into a young man attempting to find his own distinct path in a world where his family name carried an almost overwhelming amount of weight and expectation. The parents spared absolutely no expense or effort to provide their firstborn with every conceivable advantage, supporting his various creative pursuits in photography, modeling, and culinary arts, constantly using their immense global platform to champion his projects and validate his efforts before a massive worldwide audience. This history of public devotion and apparent parental adoration is precisely why the current, total breakdown of their relationship has struck such a painful and confusing chord with the public, leaving onlookers to wonder how a bond that appeared so uniquely resilient could dissolve into a series of formal legal directives and hostile public statements. The transformation of this relationship began to accelerate significantly following the introduction of a new dynamic into the eldest son's life, a high-profile romance with an independently wealthy heiress from an incredibly powerful and prominent American family. This union, which culminated in the incredibly lavish and globally publicized 2022 wedding ceremony, was initially viewed by the public as the ultimate merger of two contemporary dynasties, an event that should have expanded the family's global influence and brought a new sense of joy and vitality into their collective circle. Instead, according to the explosive claims later made by the eldest son, the preparations for this monumental wedding became the primary breeding ground for intense power struggles, deep-seated resentment, and a profound clash of cultural and familial expectations that would ultimately tear the household apart. The allegations that the world-famous mother had overstepped her boundaries during the celebration, effectively overshadowing the young bride, and causing immense humiliation to her own son, highlighted a fundamental conflict between a matriarch accustomed to ultimate control and a young couple desperate to establish their own independent identity away from the family brand. In the years that followed that fateful wedding, the distance between the two factions grew from a simple geographical separation into a profound psychological and emotional exile, with the eldest son and his wife choosing to anchor their lives firmly in the United States, far removed from the European base of operations that his parents had spent their entire adult lives establishing. This geographical and emotional shift created a highly volatile atmosphere where every single public action, social media post, or media interview became a potential weapon in an ongoing, low-intensity conflict, leading directly to the explosive public statement issued by the son earlier this year that permanently altered the family narrative. In the wake of that devastating public declaration, the family has found itself operating in a bizarre, deeply painful new reality where the traditional methods of familial communication have been entirely replaced by strategic public relations maneuvers and subtle, highly calculated social media activity. This passive-aggressive digital warfare was vividly on display in the immediate aftermath of the tense Hollywood Walk of Fame ceremony and the subsequent failed doorstep visit in Los Angeles, illustrating how both sides now use the internet to signal their emotional states and maintain their respective stances without ever engaging in actual conversation. While the world was actively dissecting the harsh accusations of media manipulation leveled by the son's representatives, his wife took to her personal social media platform to share a quiet, beautifully framed photograph of a colorful sunrise filtering through a dense canopy of trees, a visual metaphor that many commentators interpreted as a clear message of peace, renewal, and absolute contentment in their self-imposed exile away from the family drama. Almost simultaneously, the eldest son reshared a simple, unbothered photograph of himself jogging through the morning sunlight, projecting an image of calm, focused independence that suggested he remains entirely unaffected by his family's public milestones or their alleged attempts to reach out to him through hand-delivered letters. These subtle digital responses stand in stark, poignant contrast to the traditional, deeply rooted philosophy of the patriarch, who used his high-profile interview with a prominent entertainment publication to double down on his lifelong commitment to the concept of family unity, even as his actions indicated an absolute refusal to discuss the specific painful realities of his firstborn's absence. By passionately declaring to the interviewer that his family with his wife always comes first and remains the absolute, non-negotiable priority that has allowed their high-profile marriage to survive and thrive for over a quarter of a century, the legendary sports icon was not just answering a question but reaffirming a personal manifesto. It was a powerful, public reminder of the values he has always championed. Yet it also highlighted the profound, unresolved irony of a man who has achieved ultimate global success based on the premise of family solidarity, yet currently finds himself unable to speak to his oldest son except through the cold, formal medium of highly paid corporate attorneys. This ongoing, high-stakes drama ultimately serves as a powerful and highly cautionary tale about the immense, often destructive pressures of modern celebrity culture, proving that the creation of an immaculate public brand can sometimes demand a heavy, unsustainable toll on the genuine human relationships that exist beneath the surface. As the global audience continues to watch this modern dynasty navigate the fractured pieces of their once perfect life, it becomes increasingly clear that the path to true reconciliation cannot be found through carefully choreographed media events, hand-delivered letters captured by the paparazzi, or stoic refusals to comment on late-night talk shows. It can only be achieved if both sides are